A very good day to you all. My name is Pastor Lawrence Mazenge and welcome to Daily Inspiration. Today we are reading from the book of Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12, and the Bible says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Our message today is titled, We wrestle not against flesh and blood. One thing that the devil enjoys most is when Christians do not know what they are fighting against. Because if you don't know what you are fighting against, you can fight your fellow soldiers, the people that are on your side. You can fight them, ignoring the enemy and focusing your whole energy on the people that you are supposed to be winning over to you. That is what happens mostly to us as human beings. Sometimes we fight fellow human beings. Sometimes we don't know what we are doing. Sometimes we stand against our brothers and sisters. Of course, in most cases, mostly they would have come to us and do something that is not right to us. But what we need to understand is that any person can be influenced by bad spirits. Any person can be influenced by evil spirits. And when they are influenced by such spirits and they come to us and do things that provoke us, we are not supposed to focus our energy on them, but we are supposed to focus our energy on the spiritual influence that is sending them to come against you. Because the moment we focus our energy against our brothers, we will never win the war. Because you can never win a spiritual war fighting physically. You only win a spiritual war when you are fighting in the spirit. But how can you see and identify a spiritual war if you are not a spiritual person? You need to understand that even Paul in the book of Corinthians, he said the things of the spirit cannot be understood by those who live in the flesh. You need to understand that for you to understand, for you to know what you are fighting against, you need to be in the spiritual realm. That is why we are always encouraged to be in the spirit. We are always encouraged to walk in the spirit so that we understand and see and identify spiritual battles when they come against our lives. Sometimes it can just be your spouse. Sometimes it can be your child. They are just doing some things that you cannot understand. But if you fail to identify the spiritual battle versus the physical battle, sometimes you will always be losing battles that you thought you were going to win because you are fighting them at a level which they are not supposed to be fought. When we read the Bible, in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 4, it says, "For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds." You need to learn to refuse to wrestle spiritual battles in the physical. Because the only weapons that God can give us are spiritual weapons. Never expect physical weapons from God. The weapons that God gives us are spiritual weapons. If you read the Bible, in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17, I think around verse 45, the story of David and Goliath, you will find out that the weapon that David used to kill Goliath was not a weapon that could kill even a dog. But David relied much on God. He knew very well that the weapons that were definitely going to kill Goliath were spiritual weapons, not the physical ones that he was holding in his hand. He went holding something so that the world could be convinced that this young man is fighting. But if you remember very well, even Saul wanted him to take up his armor and to wear his weapons of his clothes of war, but David could not even move in them. Which means to say, even David himself was not a candidate for a fight with Goliath, even a fair fight where they both didn't have weapons. Which means to say, David understood that his weapons of warfare were not carnal. He was going to fight Goliath using the power of God, using the spiritual weapons of God. And he went there and he became victorious. Refuse to be forced to fight wars, with weapons that you cannot use. Because you can't use physical weapons as a child of God, but you can use spiritual weapons as a child of God, because God empowers you for those weapons. David had no strength for Saul's armor. He could not even lift it up, which means physically he was way inferior to Saul. He was not qualified to go and fight someone whom Saul had been hiding from 40 days. But he understood that his weapons of warfare were not carnal, but they were mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. I want you to understand the battles that you are facing in life right now, they are not physical battles. You are facing spiritual battles. Don't use physical weapons to fight spiritual wars. God will help you if you understand Him and if you go before Him with your wars. My name is Pastor Lawrence Mazenge. This is Daily Inspiration. God bless you and have a wonderful day.